Morning, guys. Good to see everybody. Just wait just a little bit. It's been a while. It's been a while. Well, guys, let's get started. It's been a while. I was sick last month, so I could not whatsoever host a webinar. I was just sick. And now we are in the midst of planning my daughter's wedding, and we've got a lot of business activity happening. And not only that, we've got a lot of nonprofit activity happening. You know how much Denny and I love to be out in the community, and we're working with a wonderful organization that serves veterans, which is a passion close to my heart and Denny's as well, because he's a veteran too. So I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad to be reconnected. And one thing you're going to notice is we've got a new name. We are moving from the 360 Entrepreneur to Entrepreneurship 360. It's all about living your life as an entrepreneur, and how do you make sure that you're not dropping the balls in other aspects of your life. We have to continually be evaluating every aspect of our life. And sometimes it is like we're spinning in a circle, but we have to stop and make sure that our relationships are working well with our spouse, make sure our relationships are working well with our kids, make sure that our business is staying intact, make sure that we are the community leader to lead by example. And we have to also take care of the mind and the spirit and the heart. And sometimes it gets off balance. So we're here to keep ourselves in check, including myself. A lot of times when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself as well, and reminding myself something that's very, very important, which is to pause a minute, ensure that I am treating myself with grace, giving myself a pat on the back for all that I'm accomplishing, give myself grace when I don't feel like I'm doing enough, and then reflecting on the goodness in my life. And I was just outside of the office area and happened to see somebody sitting, and clearly they had cancer, and they were sitting outside with actually a rolling IV. And it just made me pause and reflect for a minute, because I'm getting ready to hop on this webinar and be with you. And I thought, we have a lot to be grateful for as entrepreneurs. We are so in control of our life in so many ways that other people are not. And what an opportunity to pause a minute and just really reflect on the goodness. So anyway, let's get started. I hope that you guys will share this video once it's on YouTube. You make sure that you like and subscribe to all of our social media platforms, and go where you like to go best, whether it's on X or on Instagram or on Facebook, YouTube, etc. Go there, like and subscribe. Let's get started. We are going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of bringing your children into business. And if you're like me, when I was starting business, I just had these grandiose dreams of having my children continue my legacy. And I thought, probably rightly so, nobody is going to love you and care for you like your mama will. So get in the family-owned business. Let's take care of each other, and we will be successful together as one unit. And that didn't exactly work out the way I had planned. But there are many reasons why that didn't work out. And there was a lot of good that came out of it. And there was some hard times. And I just want to share with you the lessons learned, because not only did I go through that experience personally, but our marketing agency works with a lot of family-owned businesses. And as a reflective working in family-owned business as clients, I see some of the same dynamics. There's an importance of building legacy and making sure that you have a concrete succession plan, but then there's the family dynamics of entitlement, or ensuring that that next generation respects the sweat, blood, and tears that went into building the business. And so let's just talk about the beauty if you choose to bring in your children into your business. One, it's legacy in action, right? There's an inherent sense of pride of passing down your business to your children or having them work by your side. It is such an emotional connection of knowing that you have shared values. It's your child or your children right there next to you, and you're able to share and transfer your head knowledge to them. And then you're able to watch them grow and rise within your business. And that really creates this alignment of strong bonds of unity as a family. There's a mission, there's a unique common good of walking on the same path. And as a parent, when we love our child, we all know it's a love that cannot be described. It's a real unique type of love. But when you're walking side by side and you're building a business that is affecting others, because you have employees, you have customers, and how you provide for them affects their ability to be successful. And so you and your children are doing that together. That's powerful. And I would say that it's lifelong learning, right? Having your children in your business is constant learning. You're learning how to separate being a parent to being the owner and making sure that you can segment those roles. So that's your own internal learning. When can I just be mom or just be dad? And when do I have to be the owner of the company? Your child is also learning how to segment. When I walk in the office, that's not my parent, that is the owner of the company, and he or she must do what is in the best interest of that company. So that evolution and that learning and that maturity really is powerful, and it's a blessing. And I would say it kind of builds a sense of trust and loyalty within each other, right? As a parent, your children, trust you and they're loyal to you. But when you walk through the doors of the business, you as a parent have to understand that you're having to build trust and loyalty as an employer, as a founder of that business. You don't naturally get your child's respect just because you're their parent. You have to really show them that you have the capabilities to lead within the business and really move that business to the next level. So when that trust and that loyalty is earned on this side, as a parent, it's very, very rewarding. And of course, working close to your children, there's a deepening of bonds. You become very much in sync with each other, and you become very protective over what you're trying to build. And you are very mindful of the fact that the family's livelihood rests on your ability to work together and work in sync and not against each other. So these are the beauty aspects of being in business and having your children working as a part of the business. That's the good side of it. But there's also this other side of it that's got its own dynamic. And that's when you have to really navigate this complex world of entitlement. When entitlement meets entrepreneurship, you have to deal with that in a very unique way. And I would say that when you are owning a business and you've got a sense of sweat, blood, and tears that you've put into that business, you've put your whole life on the line for that business. When your children come into the business with a sense of entitlement, it has the ability to shift the culture. And I was very fortunate that I didn't have that with my children. None of my children came into our business with a sense of entitlement. They understood where we came from. And where we came from was a hardworking mom that was pretty much the sole provider of the family for a bit. And now we have this opportunity to be entrepreneurs and come into the business and really showcase our own talents and grow and learn together. And I have some of the most precious moments of taking my children and their future spouses, and when they got married, taking their spouse as well to learning events to really grow as entrepreneurs. And I loved it. I loved sitting around a table and having my kids there learning right with me how to be better entrepreneurs, right? So I was very fortunate that I didn't have kids that had a sense of entitlement coming in, but I have seen family-owned businesses where it is that. And that sense of entitlement is not earned. That sense of entitlement means that I get to come into the business regardless if I'm learning, regardless if I'm growing, and there's an expectation that I will have a certain title in the business, regardless if I have earned it. And what that does is it creates a culture really that is not built on trust. And when you don't have trust, you don't have loyalty. And when employees can see that, there's a lack of respect that organically happens for the owner of the company. And the culture shift is not as it seems, it's not stable because they have come in, not earned their way up. And then you've got the employees watching that. And it's like any other employee, they want to know that their colleagues have earned their way to the top so they can equally celebrate them as they would want to be celebrated as they're moving. So, the challenge of fair treatment is important. And one thing I did struggle with quite a bit was fair treatment, because some of the actions that I felt my children, did within the business traditionally with an employee, I may not have, smoothed over it as much as I did with my own children. And mind you, I'm a tough booger. My my kids, I really managed my 5 children like a military zone because I didn't have a choice. I was really taking care of them in big ways. And our little one had a few little health issues that he had to contend with. He had a couple of heart surgeries. And so we had to contend with that. So I ran it very, very strong, our household very strong. But when we got into the business, I was such a sucker. I really wanted at every level for these kids to be in the business and to take it over. It was completely my vision for them because I wanted them to feel safe. And I didn't want them to struggle the way that I had struggled with being on welfare, barely climbing out of, my own disastrous early, bits of struggle, right? And working and crawling my way up to the top of the corporate ladder to starting my own business. I wanted them to really, really have a sense of safety. I wanted them to go into adulthood and raising children with generational wealth. And so I was willing to put up with a little bit more so that I could ensure their own safety. But guess what that really was all about? I really wanted their love. I really wanted them to acknowledge me as being successful because I didn't have that own self-confidence. And so what I do is I encourage you as an entrepreneur, if you consider having your children in your business or they're in your business now, and you're really skirting over bad behavior, or you're willing to give more chances than you would a typical employee, I'm going to encourage you to self-reflect what's driving that for you. What are you afraid of? You might just be afraid of succession planning. You just may not have a plan for what you're going to do with the business if the kids don't take over the business. Or it could be that you're buying love and you want to really have them acknowledge you. And that means that you've got a self-esteem issue that you need to deal with, right? And so the art of compromise is not to allow other people to walk all over you. You don't have time for that. And guess what? Your employees, your customers are relying on you to execute because you affect their own livelihood. So you have to really separate parenting the minute you walk through the office door The minute you walk through the office door, that is not your child, that is your employee. When you walk out the office door, that is your child. So, and I don't know if you can hear the noise, but there's some work being done upstairs. So I apologize if the noise is passing through here. So let's talk about this fair treatment and working with children and that problem of ownership distribution. How do you really decide what your child is deserving of and capable of? A couple of things. One, I brought in a consultant into my business, and I highly recommend this. If you've got 15 to 20 staff members that are working for your business, I recommend that you introduce Culture Index to your vetting program. Okay. And it was very interesting. I really had plans for my son to take over our business, and perhaps even my son-in-law working side by side with him. And when we implemented Culture Index, I would say it's a personality profile that is on steroids. Not only does it identify their personality traits, but it identifies whether or not they're in the right seat. And I clearly came into this thinking, I don't understand why these children are not rising to the occasion to take over the business, or why there's such conflict with my vision for the business versus what they think we should be doing with the business. Because we had a little bit of that push and pull. And when we implemented Culture Index, the beauty of it is I got to know myself. Even coming in to the consultant, I said, listen, if I am not the right person to lead this business to the next level, I am okay with not doing so. I'm okay bringing a CEO in. And oddly enough, he came back in and said, Darlene, your high vision, you can see way, way far into the future, and you're moving the company in that direction. But your children that are working for you right now are strong operationally, but they can only see in the now. So the push and the pull is they don't have the vision that you have. That's not their skill set. That's your skill set. They're operators. They can really get in there and fine tune processes. They can really move things internally and in the now to a better stream and structure. But where you're thinking, that's not how they work. That's not how they operate. That's why there's push and pull. So you're going to need a strong visionary to lead your company. And I hate to tell you this, it may not be your children. It may mean that your children are great in the operational efficiencies, the operational execution, but the visionary to scale the business in that direction, it's not going to work. So you need to reevaluate that strategy for your succession plan. So when we talk about the problem of ownership distribution, we as parents let our role as parent get in the way of our business. It gets in the way of really saying, I want this so bad. I want these children to really succeed me. But are we as business owners, take the parent hat off, put the business owner hat on, are we as parents setting them up for failure? Because we're not taking a step back and saying, I've got to look at this objectively. I've got to see, is this the right person for the right seat? And when I did Culture Index and I brought this consultant in, Doug Kiskin, he changed my life, because I realized not only were my children somehow in wrong seats, right? I was thinking, how could they not agree with me? How could they not support me as their mom? How could they not really get what I'm seeing? Because that's not their skill set. I wasn't honoring them exactly as they are, as who they are, not whatsoever. So taking a moment to really bring an outsider in to take off my rose-colored glasses was something that was very life-changing. And I could really honor my children for where they're at. One of my daughters that worked for us, high creativity, high creativity. She's never going to be a person that's going to sit in the office and do office work, right? We've got another daughter that worked in her office, high focused, high organizational, but in terms of visionary and forward thinking, and seeing the bigger picture of things, not her skill set. So I would never put her in a leadership role. And then my son, John, I know he doesn't, he's an adult now, a dad, but he's still my John. You know, my son, John, he is very good at operational efficiencies. So good. He can really look at something and see how things need to be evolved and fixed and map it out and stream it out. But he doesn't have the kind of vision that I have. So there are a lot of push and pull there, right? And then I had a beautiful daughter-in-law that, you know, she's a big cheerleader and a fan for our business. She's in HR now. And reflecting back, I could see how she was the champion for our culture. But we had her in sales. And yeah, she was good at sales. But you know what? She was an HR person. So really, you got to come back out of your parent role in family business, and you have to treat your children as employees. And you have to understand that they may not be your future. And there's nothing wrong with that, because how devastating is it for you to expect them to take over your business and they don't have the skill set, the mindset, and they never will to do so? And what kind of pressure are you putting on them to take over your business, rise to the occasion, and they can't? What kind of guilt trip is that to say, gosh, the business that my mom built or my dad built, I failed at it. So you've got to set them up for success by really evaluating whether or not they can do it. Okay. And that does create a dilemma for succession planning, but also what's more important in life. And that's when we talk about entrepreneurship 360. What's more important in life is understanding that the foundation of the success of your business is how healthy your mind, spirit, and body is, but also your family relationships. Nothing matters but that. At the end of the day, when you're laying in your deathbed, you're not going to be thinking about your business and the growth strategies. You're going to be thinking about the relationships with your family, what you could have done better, what you should have done better, etc. So the best thing you can do for your family-owned business is take off the parent hat and take the boss hat and put it on and look at your children like actual employees, not as your children. And really ensure that you're mapping out your business for the good of your business. And if they can, and if they will do so, which we're going to talk about if they will, then they can move into the role of succession planning and taking over your business. And let's talk about the will. Let me tell you, my beautiful son tried several times to resign from the business, and I was not having it. I had everybody, I had his boss, Brooke, talk to him. I had my husband talk to him. I had everybody convince him to stay several times. And I think that if I would have let him go early on when he wanted to initially resign and go out and explore, he just wanted to explore different things. He was young when he got into our business. He was in high school and he wanted to go explore other things. And I laid the guilt trip on him heavily because I just felt like I had more worldly experience. I had spent a lifetime in corporate America. I had 10 bosses in 10 years. I knew the ups and downs of corporate America, and I knew that you could be laid off in a heartbeat and they didn't care what it meant to you and your family. And I knew that having a family-owned business, we would always care about the livelihood of our family. And I didn't want that for him. But I let my own insecurities and let my love for him dictate my judgments accordingly. And because they loved me, when they got the guilt trip, they stayed. They stayed because they cared. They cared about me. They cared about my husband, and they cared about the business and all the people that we supported, 125 independent contractors, 20 something plus employees sitting in that office. They cared, but it wasn't fair. And this is where you have to step back again, and you have to evaluate the business with the business hat on, not the parent hat. And if you have an employee that's reached their peak performance and they want to move on to greater things, why would you hold them back? You wouldn't. You'd say, move on. I'll give you a great letter of recommendation. Thank you for all that you've done. We hate to lose you. Know that you can always come back, and you would send them on their way. So I highly recommend that you are taking two strategies with your children coming into your business. Do they want to? Are you laying a guilt trip on them? And if they want to, can they? Are you delusional in your thinking that they can take the business and hold on to it? Important. So let's go through the pros and cons again. One, family legacy. God, to pass your entrepreneurial spirit and see your child have it equally is powerful. And I got to tell you, the same son that worked for me has his own business. And I could not be more proud of him and his success. It's powerful. Trust and loyalty. Who can you trust more than your own blood? Even Cassie, who worked for us, my son's daughter, I trusted her like my own daughter. I just knew she would always protect the culture and the brand, and she would protect our resources. We shared those values. Shared values are equally important. There's this motivation to succeed. We have so many wins as a family-owned business. It was beautiful for us to share those wins. We took this small business where if the file with the invoices was this thick, maybe we would call for accounts receivable. If it was this thick, that meant it was a good customer, and we got it on QuickBooks, and we drove it, that business to grand numbers. We were scaling and growing. And guess what? We did that as a family. I loved that motivation for us to succeed together as a family was a beautiful thing. But the cons, limited perspective. There was a limited thought process that began to happen within us because I was trying to hold on to this family vision while my children were pushing and pulling me to do other things with the business that I didn't necessarily agree with because I had more experience than them. Or there was a push and the pull because they wanted to leave and I didn't want them to leave. That created family conflict. That's the other con. Professional and personal realms merge. It's very hard to keep it separate, which leads to pressure and expectations. I had a very high expectations of my children on many levels, because I was so burdened by who I was as a parent and what I thought I should have been doing better as a parent. I expected more out of them so they could be better than me. Now, I will tell you, I've had almost every one of my children come back to me at some point saying, thank you for putting those expectations on me, but I was really hard on my kids. I expected them to do, be, and better, sometimes at the conflict of who they were as a person. And with that, lack of experience. I put my kids in seats and elevated them when they weren't ready because I wanted it so badly for them. And so I share this vulnerability with you because I believe that instead of me teaching you what to do, maybe you can learn from me and know that I've been through it. But I've also seen everything that I'm sharing with you through our own clientele over and over and over again. Now, let me talk to you about successful family-owned run businesses that I've seen. And I really love this. And I'm thinking of a particular company that I really appreciate and value. There is a deep mutual respect with the next generation and the previous generation. The generation that put the blood, sweat, and tears understands the importance of evolution. They really see that this generation can take that business to the next level in marketing and service and product offerings. They're forward thinkers and they're willing to let go. And this generation that is succeeding them respects the blood, sweat, and tears that they put into that business. There's a deep value of understanding they're not morons because they don't know social media. They are not old school. They worked hard to get this business where it's at. And this new generation deeply admires and appreciates what the generation before them did. And when there is mutual respect, there is mutual compromise in moving forward. They're willing to let go a little bit, but they're holding the reins to make sure things are okay. And they're saying, I respect what you did before. I will always honor you. Here are my ideas. And when I have seen that played out, specifically in this company, they are growing. They're a restaurant chain in San Antonio. I just saw that they opened up another location or renovated another location. And the beauty of seeing the mom and the daughter in pictures together and media coverage together, there's a mutual respect. When you have mutual respect and you can honor each other exactly where you're at, success begins to flow. When there's push and pull, you need to first self-reflect as a parent, as the business owner, and to say, what is driving all of this? You may need to go to therapy, for God's sakes, right? You may need to go to therapy and talk it out and figure it out. But you got to see what's pushing you and pulling you to drag that child through the muck to take over the business. And if the child isn't respecting you in the workplace, then what kind of boundaries have you pushed down and let go? And why have you done that? At what expense? You got a couple of choices with your business. You can sell it, you can fold it after you've bled out the cash, when you're done, and retire it, or you can pass it on. And you're not obligated to do any of these choices. You have to do what's right for you. And this comes back to, I encourage you to go back and look at a couple of the webinars on the inner and outer critic. Because sometimes as entrepreneurs, we let the inner critic drive all of our decision-making. We let the outer critic compile it with more bricks on your shoulders. And we are just driven by all of this internal and external criticism, as opposed to really knowing ourselves and standing strong in our convictions and leading the way and the example as the matriarch or patriarch of our family and the owner of our business. And you are worthy to set the standards for your own life and not be ran over by your children, but you also owe it to your family as well to make sure that you're not setting them up for failure. And you are responsible as a parent and as a business owner to define trust and loyalty and respect as a theme in your life and as a theme in your business. And when you have that tone of mutual respect back and forth, you are able to succeed because you're working as a team. Whether it's your children or your employees, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Today, my children are working in different aspects of, corporate America, at Expedia, politics, education, owning their own business, working as an operator in a food franchise. They're all working in other places. And I am okay with that. I'm okay with that these days. I don't need that. But I really, really find that the family owned business is one of my favorite types of entrepreneurial businesses to work with, even when they're in conflict with each other, because I really respect the fact that they're trying to figure it out and gel together. It's all doable. Think long and hard before you bring those kids in. Set them up for success. Set yourself up for success as well. Don't do it just because. It's not worth it in the end. The relationship is more important than the business at all cost. At all cost. The relationship is just simply more important. So when you keep that in mind, when you kind of lead with that thought process, right, you'll make different decisions when it comes to your family-owned business. And just remember, every journey starts with a single step. Okay. Whether it's bringing your children into the business or not, the first step could be bringing an outside consultant like Culture Index, right? I can't sing that song enough. Bring in an expert in to evaluate the state of your business. Do you have right people in right seats? And what is the skill set of your child and how can you set them up for success? Right? That is the first step that you can take. And if they're already in your business, go back and reevaluate. You own the business. You have every right to do so. Because when you're not here anymore, are you setting them up for failure? And what kind of ramifications does that have within their heart, their mind, and their spirit? You don't want to set them up for failure. You want to set them up for success. So make sure that running your business is the right thing, not because it's cool, not because it's fun to have your child next to you, not because it's a great thing to say we're a family-owned business. That's not fair. You got to keep your parenting love out of it. And you got to put the entrepreneurial business hat into it, right? So evaluate these pros and cons. And if you ever want to talk it out, I'm here for you. Just reach out. I'm happy to hop on a call after the wedding. After a couple of weeks, I'm happy to hop on a call with you and talk about it at any point in time, because you know how much I love entrepreneurship and working with my own spouse, and the dynamics of working together and living together and being together is its own animal. And that's so important that you're managing that relationship. But adding on the layer of having your kids in, it really is a moment to pause. And I can tell you right now, probably will never, even if my kids came banging on the door, probably will never bring in my children back into the business, because really the relationship is more important to me. I just rather have a relationship with them and not have it always be about our business matters and the push and the pull that comes with that. It's okay. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. I hope this was helpful, guys. I hope that you got something out of it. And anytime, reach out to me. I am going to wrap it up this morning. I hope that you have a beautiful weekend. It's Super Bowl weekend, so enjoy this time. And again, don't hesitate to reach out if you want to have a phone call and discuss what's going on in your family business and your family dynamic. Entrepreneurship 360 is about looking at your life in a 360 mode. You've got to constantly be reevaluating every aspect of your life to ensure the healthiness and the well-being of each relationship in your life. It's really, really important. And it includes the relationship with yourself as well. Priority number one, you're not good with you. You're not good for anybody. So you have to do that. Okay. Have a great weekend, guys. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday to be with me. And we look forward to the next time that we're coming together.